This poem is called Creole. I am very interested in impurity. Intellectual, racial, ethnic, religious. Purity is scary to me. I tend not to like purity. So I arrogate to myself this word, Creole. Creole. I'm sick of the gods. I'm tired of the gods. I'm pious about the ancestors, afloat in the wake widening behind me in time, those restless devisers. My father had one job from high school till the day he got fired at 30. The year was 1947, and his boss, planning to run for mayor, wanted to hire an Italian veteran, he explained, putting it in plain English. I was 7 years old. My sister was 2. The barbarian tribes in the woods were so savage, the empire had to conquer them to protect and clear its perimeter. So into the woods, Rome sent out missions of civilizing governors and forces to establish schools, courts, garrisons. Soldiers, clerks, priests, citizens with their household slaves. Years, decades, entire lives were spent out in those hinterlands, which might be good places to retire on a government pension, especially if in your work years you had acquired a native wife. Often I get these things wrong, or at best mixed up. But I do feel piety toward those persistent mixed families in Gaul, Britain, Thrace. When I die, may I take my place in the wedge widening and churning in the mortal ocean of years of souls. The Roman colonizing and mixing, the imperial processes of legal enslaving and freeing involved not just the inevitable fucking in all senses of the word, but also marriages and births, as developers and barbers, scribes and thugs mingled and coupled with the native people and peoples. Begetting and trading, they had to swap, blend, and improvise languages. Couples, especially, needed to invent French, Spanish, German, those Creole languages. And I confess, I, Roman barbarian, I find that Creole work more glorious than God. The way it happened, the school sent around a notice. Anybody interested in becoming an apprentice optician, raise your hand. It was the Great Depression. Anything about a job sounded good to Robert Pinsky, who told me he thought it meant a kind of dentistry. Anyway, he was bored sitting in study hall, so he raised his hand, and he got the job, as was his destiny, full-time after he graduated. Joe Chavone was the veteran who took the job, not a bad guy. Dr. Weinberg did get elected mayor. Joe worked for him for years. At the bank, John Smock, an Episcopalian whose family once owned the bank, had played sports with Milford, and he gave him a small loan with no collateral. So he opened his own shop, grinding lenses and selling eyeglasses. As his mother-in-law said, almost a professional. Optician comes from a Greek word that has to do with seeing. Banker comes from an Italian word for a bench, where people sat to make loans or change. Pinsky, like Tex or Brooklyn, is a name nobody would have if they were still in that same place. Those names all signify somebody who's been away from home for a while. Schiavone, or Chavone, means a Slav or slave. Milford is a variant on the poets' names, Milton, Herbert, Sidney, that certain immigrants used to give their offspring. And Creole comes from a word meaning to breed or to create in a place.